Hey 12, it's the Seahawks Squad. Everything Seattle Seahawks every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Emerald City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get loud, 12s. The Seahawks Squad Show starts now.
What's going on, Seahawks fans? Anderson Hurst, Corbin Smith, and Turbo. Robert Turbin with you, former Seahawk running back, Super Bowl 48 champion, as we start our Seahawks Squad Show. Man, it is good to be in a game week, gentlemen. Finally, we're inching closer to week one against the San Francisco 49ers, and I can taste real regular season football coming our way. So we're going to break down everything in the matchup in this massive divisional rivalry to start the season. We're going to ask these two experts where their eyes are looking. What's going to tell them that the Seahawks are playing well? What's going to tell them that there's some concerns to be had? We'll take a look at the matchup of the Seahawks offense versus the Niners defense, and we'll take a look at the matchup of the Seahawks defense against the Niners offense. But let's start it all off. Corbin Smith, what do you got? Where are your eyes moving to in this game today, or not today, but on Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers?
To me, it's like any time these two teams get together, you've got to have your eyes gravitate to the trenches on both sides of the ball. And way too many times in the last 4 or 5 years, the 49ers have dominated at the line of scrimmage on both offense and defense. Really, the first time that we saw the Seahawks finally turn the tables a little bit was last year in Santa Clara, the second game where the Seahawks finally snapped that losing streak, a 5-game losing streak to the 49ers. But consistently for the last 4 or 5 years, it has been dominated by San Francisco up front. And the 49ers have lost a lot of pieces, particularly on their defensive line. This is a good litmus test to see where Gray Zabel, Jalen Sundell, Charles Cross, that entire offensive line, where they're at, because you're playing a team, even though you still got Nick Bosa, they're missing a lot of key ingredients, particularly in the interior of that defensive line. They're going to have rookies playing significant snaps. Can you take advantage of that and impose your will and get that run game going? To me, that is what is going to be dictating whether the Seahawks get a win on Sunday or not.
All right, so we got from one running back to another. Talking about the running game, I could not have predicted it any better. Turbo, do you agree? Is that where your eyes are going?
Oh, Corbin's exactly right, but I'm going to shift my focus to something a little bit different, because he talked about how the Niners, over recent history has dominated the line of scrimmage, right? Well, the other thing that they've had the advantage on the Seahawks on is, just playmaking in critical moments of the game. Third down, situational moments, red zone. I'm going to be looking at that. Like, who's the guy on the Seahawks on both sides of the football, offense and defense, maybe even special teams, whether it could be a punt block? Who's the playmakers? Who's the guys that are going to make those plays in critical moments? Because we've seen on the 49ers side them make the sack in the fourth quarter, or George Kittle make the big catch, middle of the third quarter on the 3rd and 12 or something like that. It's time for the Seahawks to start making those type of plays, and that's what I'm going to be looking for.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. To me, this is going to be a big test, whether, I think almost everyone on this Locked On Seahawks, whether it's myself, Corbin, Turbo, Chris Crawford, Rob Rang, Nick Lee, a lot of people are really high on the Seahawks this year, probably higher than the national media are. This is going to be a big test whether that's going to be true this year for me, because I think these teams are kind of going in opposite directions. I think the Seahawks are kind of on the upturn a little bit. Niners really have to prove to me that last year was a fluke before I really start to believe that they're going to be one of the contenders in the NFC. So I think this is a good chance for the Seahawks to be like, no, this is our division to lose now. I know the Rams are there. They won it last year. They played pretty well in getting to the NFC Championship game. But I still think on some level, the NFC West runs through one of these two teams, and this is the chance for the Seahawks to kind of prove that. So this is going to be a huge test, especially in week one. Corbin, what does it mean for this matchup being in week one versus sometime later in the season? Because I think in some ways it's an advantage, but in some ways it could be a disadvantage considering how many injuries San Francisco has had the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think, I look at it as advantageous for the Seahawks for a couple of reasons. One, San Francisco's not going to have Brandon Ayuk. They are going to be missing a couple other guys on defense. Malik Mustafa would have been one of their starting safeties. He's on the PUP list. So San Francisco's in worse injury shape than what the Seahawks are going into this game. And then I'm already kind of hinted at this, but there are so many young guys that are going to be asked to play major roles for San Francisco on this defense with all of the personnel turnover they've had, particularly in the trenches. Alfred Collins coming out of Texas, a really good player, but he's a rookie. CJ West, 4th-round pick out of Indiana. Loved him in the pre-draft process. But again, he's a rookie. You're counting on those guys. In the secondary, they've got a couple of rookies that are going to have to play significant snaps, including Marcus Seigel from Kansas State, one of their safeties, a day 3 selection right now, is slated to start in this game. They are going to be playing a lot of raw young players in this season opener. So if there's a time to catch San Francisco, I think this is the time that you could take advantage of that because of all these newcomers that are going to be playing and the fact that you don't have Brandon Ayuk. And oh, by the way, Deebo Samuel's now in Washington too. Yeah. They've got a lot of young guys on both sides of the ball. They're going to have to step in, whether it was planned or not, for this season opener. So if you're the Seahawks, you got to take advantage of this opportunity. Whereas when they play in week 18, there's a chance by that point, San Francisco's young guys have kind of got their feet underneath them. And that could be a surging team to an extent, depending on where they're at trajectory-wise, when we get to the end of the year. So that, to me, gives Seattle a big advantage here, but you got to still take advantage of it on the field. On paper, it's not going to win you a game, regardless of whether it's week 1 or week 12 or whenever.
Turbo, do you think this Seahawks roster is better than the Niners roster in terms of players that are healthy at this point?
As it stands right now, absolutely. I don't think there's any question about it. You know, Seahawks are relatively healthy on both sides of the football, and the Niners are nicked up, you know, with some key players out in this football game. The advantage for Seattle is, so the Niners stylistically, they like to control the pace. They like to control the tempo of the game. And the advantage that the Seahawks have this year is that I believe that they're going to be able to put up points, more points on a consistent basis than they were able to do last year. And then on the flip side, or on the other side of it, you know, be able to get stops, you know, create some pressure in the pocket and be able to make some plays on the football, you know, when the ball's in the air. I think that puts a lot of pressure then on the 49ers offensively, you know, to be able to have to keep up. And that's something that they can do. But then what happens is what gets eliminated in that is, you know, being able to control the game and the time of possession on the ground with Christian McCaffrey. So I think what's going to happen in this game is that you're going to get into a situation where, you know, it's going to fall in the hands of Brock Purdy. And if it has to fall into the hands of Brock Purdy in this game where they're trying to play, you know, I guess this shootout type of style, yeah, I think that's advantage Seahawks because I think they're going to be able to get more stops and generate more stops defensively.
Corbin Smith, what do you think? Brock Purdy or Sam Darnold? Who do you trust in a big moment?
Well, I'm going to go with Brock Purdy on that between the two if we're just taking all things equal. But we can't do that going into a game like this because you have to look at supporting cast. And look, Purdy still got George Kittle. He's got Christian McCaffrey. He's got Juwan Jennings. It looks like he's going to be ready to play in this game. Yeah. So it's not like the 49ers are completely dearth of talent. They've still got some really good football players on that offense, but they're going to need some guys like Ricky Pearsall to step up and show that they can be worthy of a first-round pick and provide some punch. And maybe he does give them that. Week 1 is always kind of a crapshoot because teams have only had preseason, and you look at tape from last year, the team is different. So it's always kind of a feeling out process. So we'll have to see what San Francisco looks like on offense. But I think that if we had to look at supporting cast where things are at week 1, I would trust Sam Darnold over Brock Purdy because I trust the supporting cast that he's got around him right now more than what I trust the one that is going to be with Brock Purdy. Now, if you have Brandon Ayuk healthy, maybe that discussion is a little bit different. But I just think the Seahawks, they're healthy at receiver. They're healthy at tight end. They're healthy at running back. Their offensive line looks like it's going to be significantly improved. I just think I would trust the player that's got a little better overall supporting cast, and that's just based on the present where we're going into in Sunday's game.
Yeah. We're going to do the individual matchups here coming up soon. Next segment, we'll talk about, the Seahawks offense versus the Niners defense. In the following segment, we'll do Seahawks defense versus Niners offense. Then we'll get to our predictions later in the show. I just want to ask you, Turbo, who do you think has the coaching edge in this game? Obviously, you look at someone like Kyle Shanahan, and he's been there, done that. And he's kind of the guy to beat in this. I still think it's Sean McVay in terms of the NFC West. But it's at least one of those two guys. He's kind of had the Seahawks number recently as well. But I honestly think this is a great time for Mike McDonald to be like, hey, I'm going to prove myself in this division. I'm going to prove that I'm the Kyle Shanahan on the defensive side of the ball where you have to prepare day in and day out to play against us. And I think the matchup actually comes pretty favorably against the Seahawks. I don't know what you think. Do you think there's any world where Mike McDonald kind of has the coaching edge a little bit coming into this game?
He will.
Wow.
Eventually he will. That's my belief. Right now it's Kyle Shanahan because he's got the experience. He's got the pedigree. Yeah. He's got more wins under his belt. I mean, it's clear as day. But eventually, I think Mike McDonald is going to show everybody just what type of head coach he is. And eventually, he'll to me, I think he'll have the edge.
All right, Corbin, what do you think?
Look, Mike McDonald's had quite a bit of success against Kyle Shanahan already when he was the defensive coordinator in Baltimore.
Yes.
Baltimore really shut down their offense for most of the game. And then last year, the second matchup, I know there were some injuries, but still, it was night and day compared to the first time. And I think that Seattle's defense just shot themselves in the foot more than the 49ers outplayed them in the first matchup they had at home. So I trust Mike McDonald to be able to have a really good game plan to be able to go against Kyle Shanahan. And I think it also benefits them now. They're going against a very similar offense on the practice field with Clint Kubiak as well.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. You're kind of facing a similar style every single day on the practice field. How big is this game overall? Before we get into the individual matchups, I realized the early part of the schedule, and we kind of did a preview of the entire season last week in our Seahawks squad show with Rob Ray and Chris Crawford. But just for you guys, the earlier part of the schedule is a little bit soft for the Seahawks in terms of, historically, these teams. I think people would generally agree with that. But this is the one test, and it happens to come in the first week of the season. How important is it for the Seahawks to start 1-0 versus 0-1, especially coming against a divisional opponent? Turbo, I'll start with you.
Well, it's more important for the Seahawks than it is for the 49ers.
Okay.
In some ways, the 49ers have kind of been there, done that in terms of having a lot of success in recent years. And Seattle, quite frankly, just kind of fallen short.
Yeah.
This is a great way to get an edge. And San Francisco's had the edge, for the better part of the last few years. And this is an opportunity for the Seattle Seahawks say, it's our turn again. It's back to, it's time to flip the scales in some respect. So I think it's bigger for Seattle than it is the 49ers to start off 1-0 here.
All right, Corbin, what about you? Is it bigger for the Niners or Seahawks here?
I don't know if I'm going to quite agree with that for one reason. Even though the 49ers have been there, done that, they won 6 games last year. There's been a lot of skepticism out there. There's a lot of experts nationally that are kind of down on the 49ers too. There are some that think they're going to bounce back, but there's a lot of skepticism out there. I think San Francisco's seeing that, especially their old guard, the guys like George Kittle, the Fred Warners of the world. And I think they're looking at this situation, okay, we get a chance to go into Seattle week 1 and we can stifle whatever momentum is coming out of last season for Mike McDonald's crew and give them another loss at Lumen, because that has been a big problem for the Seahawks the last couple of years. They have lost a lot of games at a home field that no longer has been the home field advantage that it used to be. So maybe it's a slightly more important game for the Seahawks, just in the sense that they need to go out and set the tone and show, hey, we've put those issues in the past behind. Now we've won 2 straight against these guys. We feel comfortable playing the 49ers. We can play the style of football they want to play. But I think San Francisco, there is going to be a little bit of desperation there for the veterans, because they want to show, hey, look, we got to win now because our clocks are ticking some. And I think there could be some pressure, not necessarily firing pressure, but there could be pressure on Kyle Shanahan if this team does not come out here and win a bunch of games this year. there's going to start being a build-up and pressure there because of the expectations that have been set up. So I think this is an incredibly important game for both teams.
Yeah. Turbo, do you think the 12s will show out on Sunday?
It's come on, man. What? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's going to be one of those games where you're standing right next to somebody and can't hear them. We're trying to have a conversation on the sideline.
It needs to be that way.
It needs to be. I think this is a great opportunity because Lumen hasn't been that house of horrors for other teams in the last couple years. And I think this is a great time to kind of bring it back, especially having week 1 against the Niners at home, divisional matchup. Like, both these teams are vying for a spot in the division. So I definitely think it's going to be something to watch for coming up on Sunday. And I mean,
Cooper Kupp probably going to have about 10,000 people in there himself.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's coming back home. Exactly. He's always hated the Niners, even when he's on the Rams.
His 10th cousin's going to be up in the upper deck.
I love that. All right. Well, speaking of that, let's go to the kind of matchup side of things. We kind of did a general overview. Coming up next on the Seahawks Squad Show, we're going to kind of preview the Seahawks offense against the 49ers defense. What specific position battles we're looking for. What's a key factor to the Seahawks winning that specific matchup when we get back on the other side of the break here on the Seahawks Squad Show. This episode's brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy, and the NFL season's right around the corner. You can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. And if you haven't joined a league yet, now is the time. Now is really the time because the season starts on Thursday. And it's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy with the Seahawks Squad Show, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with tons of ways to compete and brand new features that make the game even better. With season kickoff on September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. If you want more ways to play, try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until one team is left standing. And if you want to play instantly with friends, try the new Draft with Friends mode. But if you prefer the classics, get your crew together and go ahead and head-to-head in a private league. If you don't have a crew, no problem. Join a public league. It's the easiest way to play, and you can draft instantly. The NFL season kicks off on September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. All right, welcome back to the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Corbin Smith, and Robert Turbo Turbin. Should I say Robert Turbo Turbin? Robert Turbin Turbo. How do I throw in your name?
Whatever comes natural, baby.
Okay.
However it flows.
All right, we're getting in midseason form already with the lead up to week 1 here. But let's talk about Seahawks O versus Niners D. This is going to be, I think, arguably the bigger side of the ball. We'll see kind of what happens. I think it comes in both of these units have the bigger question marks for their respective teams, I would say. So my question to you, really simply, Corbin, who has the edge?
I think the Seahawks should have the edge. And it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Like, I'm looking at the depth chart here, Anders, and the 49ers are going to be starting at least 3 rookies, if not more, in this game. Mykel Williams, their first-round pick, who's an incredibly talented kid, but he's raw. And this is going to be a big jump for him coming into the NFL. You've got him. You've got D. Winters, who's a young player that hasn't been a starter ever before, and he's taken over for Dre Greenlaw, who was a very important player for this 49ers defense, went to Denver. Then you've got Jason Pinnock, who they signed in free agency from the Giants, who has been an average starter at very best, has mostly been a situational guy. Marquez Seigel, day 3 pick, is their other starting safety. Upton Stout, a 3rd-round pick, is their nickelback. Renardo Green at one of the outside cornerback positions. I mean, this is a very young, inexperienced secondary in particular. I just look at all these new pieces, and maybe it comes together quickly for the 49ers, but I feel like the Seahawks, with all the weapons they have and just the To me, it's not the most explosive offense they've ever had, but you have weapons at every position. You've got experience at every position. It feels to me like the advantage should be skewed to Seattle, and you're playing a D-line that's got a lot of new faces. They're going to be playing rookies. So that should work in favor of your young offensive line to get out in front here and have a solid opener. So I do think the Seahawks should have the edge on offense, both running the football, and if they can get that going, some of those play action shots that Kubiak likes to sprinkle in. It's not a huge part of his offense, but he will take his shots, set those up so that you can take advantage of the secondary that's got a lot of inexperience and guys that haven't played very many snaps in the NFL.
All right, Turbo, is it that simple? Did the Seahawks have the edge in this matchup?
And so it comes down to intentionality. If they're intentional about dominating the line of scrimmage, then they will. I think they can. Because of all the things that Corbin said, the youth that the 49ers have and the experience, quite frankly, that the Seahawks have outside of Greg Zabel, on the offensive side of the football in terms of the line of scrimmage, which we haven't really said a lot in recent years. We're typically the young team, up front. We got some experience now. And so if they're intentional about, hey, driving the football forward, running the football with K9 and Zach Charbonnet, and ensuring, that we're going to dominate the line of scrimmage, then they absolutely can. And it is as simple as that.
Yeah. What about the one thing I do worry about the Niners, Corbin Smith, is their pass rush. And I think that's the one area where the Seahawks offense, where I have the most worries, especially someone that still has Nick Bosa ready to go. Do you have the same concerns as I do?
Only if Nick Bosa takes over the game, which we know Nick Bosa can do. But listen, if I'm Clint Kubiak, I'm thinking, okay, I've got A.J. Barner, I've got Elijah Arroyo, I've got Eric Saubert. Like, I can game plan to be able to get that chip block on him. I'm not letting Nick Bosa destroy the game. And in the past, you didn't have as much flexibility with that because of all the other weapons they had in the defensive line. Bryce Huff is a good player that they acquired from the Eagles, but he's not elite by any means. And he's a guy that I think the Seahawks have confidence that either Charles Cross or Abraham Lucas can take him one-on-one and handle him. So you're going to be able to put more resources into making sure that Nick Bosa does not destroy your game plan. And as good as Fred Warner is, I don't think an inside linebacker in this instance is going to be destroying a game plan either. I just feel like the pass rush issues, it goes back to the run game. If they can get the line of scrimmage moving, it just slows things down for Bosa, Mykel Williams, Bryce Huff, all these guys, and it makes it even tougher, and it puts less pressure on your pass protection stuff. So I hate to keep playing this broken record, but that is going to be in this game as much as any. Seattle is going to have to impose their will physically up front, and I think if they do that, it can mitigate whatever potential concerns you would have with San Francisco's pass rush, which I don't expect is going to be near as fearsome as it has been in years past, as long as you have a game plan set up to make sure Nick Bosa by himself doesn't wreck things, which he's one of the few guys in the league that can do that.
Yeah. Before I get to you, Turbo, on that, I just want to give the Seahawks a little bit of bulletin board material. TG says, Hawks fans, get ready for the sea of red hitting your building Sunday. We coming. Lubin Field, you better get loud. That's all I'm going to say. Turbo, are you worried about the pass rush at all?
The only time the pass rush is going to really have an effect is if you're stuck in third and long, if you're staying off schedule offensively, and not being able to run the football. Like, run at Nick Bosa. Run at him. Because by the time you get to the late third and fourth quarter, you'd have worn him down by running at his ass. And then, like Corbin said, sitting got extra guys out there to chip block. The tight ends, running backs are responsible for that all the time. Robbie Oots throw a couple rib shots. That's the way to show up. That's the way to slow down, a top pass rusher like that, especially when it's just him and you don't have really much worry on the other side. And so I'm not really concerned about, the pass rush for the 49ers if the Seahawks are staying on schedule offensively.
The other part that I kind of think about, and maybe this is me grasping at straws and just having a little recency bias against the 49ers, always looking for something to go wrong. But with the secondary being a weakness for the Niners last year and them having so many new players, I almost get to the feeling of like, it can't be worse than last year, right? And when you have a lot of new players, one of them has to click, I guess, eventually. Is that the case, Corbin Smith, or am I just kind of like looking for any sort of reason to be a little pessimistic for the Seahawks offense here?
I think you're looking for a reason to be pessimistic.
Okay.
All right. Look, and I could be very well wrong on this, but like I scouted a number of these guys that are going to be in the secondary for the 49ers. Like, I think Marquez Seigel is a solid player. He is not a guy I'd be wanting to start day one, though. Yeah. I think he's going to need some time. And Jason Pinnock was a big, long-armed corner that ended up moving to safety because he wasn't athletic enough to be able to hang on the outside. And he has been hit and miss playing the safety position. But those are your two starters that you're listing. And Upton Stout was a good player at Western Kentucky, but he's a smaller dude. And I'm feeling like if he's playing in the slot, find a way to get some of your big boys out there on him and get some second-level blocks. And that's going to make him start questioning some things. Like, I look at that secondary away from Renardo Green, who did some good things for them last year. And Lenore is a good player, but Seattle has had some success against him in the past. And I just cannot wait to see if the Seahawks can take advantage of that, because I just think that is a real glaring area of weakness, at least in the meantime, for the 49ers, especially without Malik Mustafa, who I think is he might be their best secondary player if he's in the lineup right now. And that's where things are at for San Francisco.
So Turbo, do the Seahawks have the pieces to take full advantage of that? Do they have someone to take the top off? Because I think that's the one kind of piece that it's kind of, you don't know if you have that yet. I know we've been excited about Torrey Horton, what he's been giving you during the preseason, and you never know what he's going to give you at the NFL level. But it just doesn't seem like you obviously don't have the DK Metcalf threat anymore. Are they just going to be kind of dinking and dunking and playing underneath the entire game? If you have that, you're not going to take full advantage of a secondary that's been, weak and possibly even weaker this year. Man,
first of all, hell no, they're not going to just be a dink and dunk team. Okay. Secondly, JSN can run, y'all. Let's not act like they had no down the field.
He's a deep threat, man.
Come on now. Let him know, Corpse. And the only reason why you didn't see, I guess, a whole lot of it so far in his career is because of DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
He's had to take on that role because that's, I guess, the strength of his game.
Yeah.
But now JSN's got the total package, man, underneath. But now he gets to display a little bit of that more, I think. He can play more on the outside than he did, before with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf in the lineup. You talked about the secondary having to be better for the 49ers in the second. You can say the same thing about the Seahawks as far as wide receivers. Just because DK Metcalf is gone, who I love, by the way. That's my dog, okay? But that doesn't mean that the receiving core is worse than it was last year. In fact, I think it's a whole lot better, and I think it fits the system a whole lot better around Clint Kubiak. And so the top is still going to be taken off because JSN is an underrated runner, if that even makes any sense. But he's going to be able to make some plays down the field.
Yeah. Going off what Turbo's saying there, the first Rams game last year, I think that JSN only had like an 18% snap share on the outside, but he was murdering the Rams with that limited amount of time. Like, he should have had 280 yards in that game, and he had two big plays called back by holds. The Rams couldn't defend him, and he was killing them from the outside. So, listen, he might not be that vertical burner that DK Metcalf was, but he, with those post routes, I don't know that there is a better corner route running receiver in the NFL right now than JSN. All Sam Darnold's got to do is just get the ball to him and just put it out in front of him. That guy is a much better downfield target than the conventional fan believes.
I just wonder how much of his ability to get open revolved around the defense gravitating towards DK Metcalf last year. And I guess we'll
Metcalf been playing that Rams game.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that changed. I think teams, wait a minute, we got to pay attention to this 11. We can leave DK one-on-one, because he's only going to run a handful of routes.
Sure.
So I think a little bit of that sort of shifted the second half of the season last year.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that's the case. That's a narrative that's being presented to Seahawks fans at this point in time. I hope it gets proven wrong. I agree with you guys. I think JSN's a good enough deep threat to definitely take advantage of that. And then you have one of the best slot receivers of the last 10 years in Cooper Kupp, just kind of there, right? And we haven't even said one word about him yet. He's ready to go.
I got a wild card for you, Anders, in this game.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I have a feeling Derek Young is going to have a big catch in this game. He has had a phenomenal training camp in preseason. Sam Darnold really trusts him, and he's another guy that has legitimate low 4.4 speed. I don't know why. Just have a feeling 83 is going to do some things this year. I really do.
All right. Turbo, you think so too?
Well, let's see it. I would love to see it. You know, what I do know is I drafted Cooper Kupp in fantasy today.
Let's go.
So I need
in Yahoo
something.
Fantasy. That's my guy.
You know, I need something. You know what I'm saying?
All right. You got to have at least one Seahawks player, right?
I got to have a Seahawk, man.
Yeah.
I ended up drafting him over Stephon Diggs. It went all the way down to 2 seconds.
Oh, I'd take Cooper Kupp over Stephon Diggs. Yeah.
Okay.
I
all right.
think you made the right choice there. All right.
Stephon's going to get a lot of targets.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
All right, Seahawks Squad Show here. Anderson Hurst, Corbin Smith, Robert Turbin. Turbo is with us, the former Seahawks running back, Super Bowl 48 champion. Coming up next, we're going to preview the other side of the ball, the Seahawks defense against the Niners offense. I think both of these teams' strengths on the other side here, who will prevail in that one, who has the edge. We'll ask the experts here right after a quick break. We have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of the 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for helping us out. The NFL season is almost here, really almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, player props, building the same-game parlay, or even just jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Robert Turbin Turbo, quote unquote Turbo, is with us, and then Corbin Smith. You guys have seen these guys in action before. I got the two running back experts with me today. We just talked some offense, although we didn't talk a lot of running backs. Maybe we'll kind of come back to that a little bit later. But I want to talk about the Seahawks defense against the Niners offense. We all know the Niners weapons. We know the Seahawks are built around their defense, at least at this point in time, with Mike McDonald. This is definitely a strength versus strength battle, in my humble estimation. Turbo, who do you think has the edge in this one? I tend to lean Niners just because of history, but I really think the Seahawks defense can tilt the scales in this matchup come Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the real challenge is going to be right here. I mean, this is where it's going to be a real battle. The Niners want to run a football. They don't want to call them gadget plays, but they do use a lot of motions and, some shifts and some things of that nature to try to get, Christian McCaffrey open on some, plays on the outside and things of that nature out of the backfield. I like the Hawks right now, defensively. I think Pooney's injured. Dominic Pooney, the guard. I don't know if he's going to play in this game. So that's advantage Seahawks there in the interior. But I just love the upgrades, man. The DeMarcus Lawrence, I really like what the Seahawks have done in terms of in the draft. I like the Seahawks, man, defensively to have just a slight, not by a big margin. Okay. But they to me, they've got a slight edge defensively over the offense.
Corbin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is an advantage for the Seahawks with some of the guys that are missing too. I mean, I think Brandon Ayuk opens up so much for this offense for San Francisco when he is healthy, but they're not going to have him till at least week 6. So he's definitely not playing in this game. Got to see where Ricky Pearsall fits into all this. He obviously had a rough rookie season, and it was an awful situation being a gunshot victim that hurt him at the beginning of the year. So they're hoping that now that he's had a normal offseason, a normal training camp, that they're going to be able to get him more involved with their passing game too. George Kittle always scares me.
Yeah.
And look, I think Christian McCaffrey, we might be reaching the point, and I'm just saying this from my perspective. San Francisco, when they traded for Brian Robinson a couple weeks ago from the Commanders, I think a big part of that wasn't just the fact the 49ers have had a bunch of other injuries at running back. I think they were looking for somebody else that can tote the rock quite a bit so that Christian McCaffrey can play as a receiver more often. I think that's how they're going to prolong his career. So I think Seattle's got to be prepared to see more of number 22 playing on the outside than maybe they've seen in the past, especially without Brandon Ayuk. That helps fill a little bit of void. Deebo Samuel being gone too. They need some playmakers on the outside. So that's something Mike McDonald and his coaching staff, I'm sure that they are privy to and they're going to be ready for. I just look at the offensive line, though. Like Ben Barch, formerly the Jaguars, is starting one of the guard spots. Jake Brendel is just an average center. He's okay, but he's average. And right tackle Colton McKivitz. I mean, this should be an offensive line away from Trent Williams. And if Dominic Pooney plays in this game, this should be an offensive line the Seahawks defensive line can hold their own and win the line of scrimmage, at least on paper. But again, you're going to be dealing with all of the different motions and things that Kyle Shanahan throws at you, the misdirection, not just in the run game, but the passing game. How many times has Kyle Shanahan destroyed the Seahawks with misdirection screens or fake screens and then launching the ball downfield? Like, they are masters at doing that. And that really puts you on, you got to be on all your details if you are on defense for the Seahawks, regardless of the personnel, because of Kyle Shanahan's ability to be able to cook up plays to get his guys into space, particularly those misdirection plays. So those are the things the Seahawks have to guard against. But I do think from a talent perspective that they have the advantage, at least where the rosters are at right now.
Someone I want to ask you guys about is Juwan Jennings. Looks like he's going to play in this game. He definitely had a breakout year last year, but I'm wondering if that's more of just by default with Deebo Samuel's injury, Brian Ayuk's injury, and just CMC not being available for a lot of the year. Is that something that he's actually coming into his own as a very good NFL receiver, or is that more of, hey, he's been the guy just kind of getting the targets because no one else was really there? Turbo, what do you think?
Well, I mean, he could be the guy getting the targets and still not getting it done.
Right.
They're getting locked up, and he wasn't. So I think this is a player coming into his own.
Okay.
I think this is a guy that's a little bit underrated right now. Probably should be getting a little bit more attention. Probably should have got the contract that he's been asking from the 49ers. He's deserved it. And I think that, he does cause some problem. We've been talking about Brandon Ayuk, but Juwan Jennings has had a lot of success against the Seahawks over the last year, for sure, over the last couple years when he's gotten the opportunity. And you can say that about a lot of teams. He had a breakout season for a reason. Yeah. And so I think he's a legit player and someone that the Seahawks really have to be paying attention to, because outside of George Kittle, that's who Brock Purdy is going to be relying to. They've got really great chemistry. He trusts Juwan Jennings, and Juwan Jennings has made a lot of plays when called upon. So certainly the Seahawks are going to have their attention, dedicated to Juwan Jennings, some of it.
Yeah, Corbin, to me, it's like you look at the actual roster versus roster on this side of the ball. I do think the Seahawks have the slight edge, but what can even that out is the scheming of Kyle Shanahan. Do you think Mike McDonald can tip those scales back based on his scheming? Do you think he matches up well against the Kyle Shanahan scheme?
Well, I mentioned this earlier. We've seen him do it. We saw him do it in Baltimore with the Ravens defense, and that second game last year, albeit with Christian McCaffrey not out there. Look, he has shown the ability to be able to adapt both before a game based on what he's seen previously, and in game, he has shown the ability to be able to do that. And so it's really going to boil down to the execution. I expect Mike McDonald's going to have his guys ready to play. But you never know, especially in week one, what the other mastermind is going to come up with. Kyle Shanahan's had quite some time to think about some things that he can throw at Mike Macdonald. And so Macdonald's going to have to be prepared for those. The defense is going to have to be prepared for those. They're going to have to be on it communication-wise as much as you're going to have to against any other opponent. So this really is, I think, what makes this such an exciting matchup. Not just the fact that these guys hate each other and it's been a long-time rivalry, but just getting two young coaches that are considered gurus on their side of the ball, that they get to play that chess match out there at Lumen Field with all those pieces at their disposal. And Mike Macdonald's going to be hoping that he's got the talent advantage and the schematic advantage, and of course the home crowd behind it as well, to really turn the tide going into this season opener.
Yeah, Turbo, and it's worth pointing out that it being week one in the NFL season, I think history will tell us that at this point, most defenses are further along than the offenses are, coming out of preseason. So that's something that also you can lean towards the Seahawks possibly having the edge, although you can never count out a Kyle Shanahan coach team.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the players that the 49ers have on offense, just a lot of guys who are familiar with each other, even with the injuries. And so in the 49ers situation, they may be a little further along offensively, than they are on defense, just because of the familiarity that they have on that side of the football. Whereas for the Seahawks, they've got some returning players as well. And this is why, again, it's such an evenly matched battle. But again, I do like the Seahawks defensively to have a edge over the 49ers offense.
Okay. That kind of leads into our next segment. We're going to do, of course, our Predict the Future segment. And as well as you guys can probably guess, we're going to predict what happens in this game. On the other side of this break, you're listening to the Seahawks Squad Show. I got Robert Turbin with me, the former Super Bowl 48 champion, the former Seahawk, the legend himself. I got Corbin Smith, the X's and O's guru, with me of Locked On Seahawks. We're breaking it all down here from week one. It's great being in a game week finally. It feels so good. We'll talk about what we think is going to happen in this game on the other side of this break here on the Locked On Seahawks Squad Show. Are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with these free Upside apps. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. No other extra work needed. You don't need to, buy something else to get that. No, all you have to do is fill up your gas, put in this code, you're good to go. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now by using my limited time code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers may vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Welcome back to the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Corbin Smith, Robert Turbin with me. We're breaking down and previewing the week one matchup against the San Francisco 49ers, a massive week one divisional rivalry game. I think this game is going to set the tone for the rest of the season for both of these teams. I think it's huge. We have come to the time of the program where we have our Predict the Future segment. I'm going to ask these guys what they think this game is going to kind of play out as. Who do you think kind of makes a big impact? And then, of course, the final score. Corbin Smith, I'm starting with you, my man.
Look, it's week one, and I've mentioned this earlier. This really is the week where everything is a crapshoot, and it's this way at all levels. Like when you don't have a game that happened the previous week, or even in the NFL when there was a bye week and you still can go back 2 weeks, and you can use that to help with game planning. There's only so much you can get from looking at the film the previous season. Yes, Kyle Shanahan's offense, there are going to be a lot of similar things that he's doing. His offense is his offense. But all the personnel changes from year to year, injuries, all those different things, You have to account for all that. In week one, it really is one of those things where you just got to throw your best punches early and then adapt to what the other team is doing. So we see a lot of crazy things happen in the season opener as a result. I do think the Seahawks defense, they are going to be ready to go against this 49ers offense. They are going to be prepared, having gone against a similar offense on the practice field. So I think that from that perspective, that's going to help make that unevenness in week one maybe dissipate a little bit. But there's still going to be some crazy plays. It happens every time in the season opener, regardless of the level. I just think Seattle's talent and the fact they're playing at home, I think this is a close game. I think both are really well-coached teams. San Francisco is going to be able to hang in there as a result. They've got stars still, as big as stars as anybody in the NFL. Even if there's a huge drop-off or there's a lot of uncertainty behind those guys, I think the Seahawks, though, have the more talented roster. They have the healthier roster going into this game. And as I mentioned earlier, I trust Sam Darnold more than Brock Purdy right now because of the personnel around him. I think Sam Darnold has an efficient game. I think the Seahawks are able to run the football against San Francisco's new look front that's got a lot of inexperience. And I think we're going to see a couple turnovers coaxed by the defense to fuel a 4-point win. I'm going to go 27-23 Seahawks to win this one.
I like it. Seahawks dub for Corbin Smith. Turbo, do you feel the same way?
Well, I do feel like the Seahawks are going to win this game. The important thing for Seattle is I think they need to get an early lead. Even if the 49ers find a way to take over, like get back in the game, maybe Seahawks go up 7-0 and 49ers, come back and go up 10-7. Okay. But the fact that the Seahawks get an early lead, I think is important for them in this football game. Just to get that early confidence, all right, just to get a fast start in a rivalry game in a divisional matchup. I like the Seahawks to win by a 3-point margin. Ooh. I think it'll come down to a field goal at the end of the game. The points is where I'm struggling. I'm trying to debate whether it's going to be, like high scoring or not. So I'm going to go with a 23-20 victory over the 49ers. Seahawks 23, 49ers 20 in this football game.
Ooh, I like it. I think it's going to be at the end a close game, but I think it's one of those games where it's only it's only close because one of the teams closer to the end kind of scores a touchdown or a score at the end that kind of makes it seem a lot closer than it was. I think the Seahawks thoroughly dominate this game, to be completely honest. I think Lumen's going to be rocking in week one. I think Mike McDonald's going to come out and show out and be like, yo, this defense is for real. I think the Niners will move the ball okay, but the Seahawks are going to stop them from getting in the end zone multiple times. I see a 27-16 Seahawks victory, 11 points. And again, a lot of that is because the Seahawks are holding their own in the red zone, stopping the Niners to a lot of field goals, and then they're going to be driving the ball down the Niners' throats, using a lot of the run game, playing with the lead, like Turbo's saying. I think this is going to be one of those, like, if you watch the game, it's a lot more of a domination than the score actually indicates. So I got a 27-16 Seahawks victory in week one.
Well, I think Seahawks fans would be very happy with that result.
I'm just saying, like, this is the first time you done saw the glass half full all night.
Hey, it's my job as the host to present
all night
a narrative to you guys. I'm not saying that that's what I actually believe.
You've been playing devil's advocate.
I have been, exactly. You know the words. Let's go. No, but I honestly, like, I've said it from the beginning. I said it on our season preview show. I think the Niners are the worst team in this division. Like, honestly, I really think they're going to end up fourth in the NFC West. And a lot of it has to do with.
He said it, not me.
I did. And I think the Seahawks are winning this division. I'm saying that as well. So let's go. Let's start it tonight.
Is that the fan in you or the evaluator?
Part of it might be wishful thinking. Let's all right. We'll see. I've said the Astros are going to be bad for the last 3 years in baseball, and that hasn't happened. So
that was more of a fan. That was more of a hope because they cheat.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
I was hoping that too, and I don't even watch baseball.
Yeah. I also have some family who are Niners fans, and God, they're insufferable and they're good. So I really need them to not be good this year. So let's hope that comes to fruition and the Seahawks finally take advantage of it, win the NFC West, and it starts on Sunday. Any last words, you guys? We kind of did full breakdown, both sides of the ball, bigger picture stuff, predictions. Is there anything like that you want to mention before getting into this game on Sunday afternoon? Corbin, I'll start with you.
Oh man, where do I start? I'm just the X's and O's nerd in me. I cannot wait to see it feels like the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other, except it's Clay Kubiak and Clint Kubiak. And maybe the Clay Kubiak side, it's a two-headed monster because you've also got Kyle Shanahan's head on there. Like, I cannot wait to see how those two sides try to move the football with there being so much carryover between what they're going to be doing. Like Clint Kubiak's offense is not identical to Kyle Shanahan's. He's going to use more 2 and 3 tight end sets, but both these guys love 2-back sets. They love playing fullbacks or H-backs. They love to run wide zone. Both these play callers over 72% zone last year. They run very similar concepts, bread and butter. So I'm just curious to see who's able to get the most execution because both teams are gearing up for very similar offenses. And so that's going to boil down to who's able to really increase the effectiveness of their team and able to game plan as the game goes on to be able to get some of those big plays against a defense that's going to be quite well prepared for what they're going to be throwing at them.
All right, Turbo, what's the key? What's the key to victory?
Well, the key to victory is dominating the line of scrimmage. I think there's no doubt about that. And then being able to execute on big plays, like in situational moments. You got to win those 3. Those are the 3 keys right there. Dominating the line of scrimmage, winning situational moments, and being able to make plays on explosive opportunities, man. That's what it is. But, I honestly, man, I don't talk about him a lot. But, I kind of can't wait to see Sammy, man. Sam Darnold, will the real Sam Darnold please stand up? Because we want to see if that was for real last year.
Yeah.
And we're going to have an opportunity. Here it is right now, coming up on Sunday. So I think obviously we're all pulling for him. Shoot, man, he's done a heck of a job in training camp. And when he got his opportunities in preseason, I mean, when I watched him in training camp, man, I'm like, man, this kid looks sharp, bro. I'm not even gonna lie. So I can't wait to see it translate on the field. Man. Yeah. No doubt.
There's definitely going to be moments where you need him to come up big. I know everyone loves to talk about pounding the rock and how important that is, and I completely agree. You're going to need Sam Darnold to make at least a few plays come on Sunday, and I believe he will. I think he has the tools to get it done and the tools around him, so to speak, to get done. So that's why I think the Seahawks win. We all 3 went with the Seahawks victory. Let's hope it comes to fruition, which is weird because the Niners are favored in this game at Lumen Field. Makes no sense to me. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know. One team's coming off a 6-win season. One team's coming off a 10-win season. Makes no sense to me. I don't know. I don't know why that is. But anyways, we'll catch up with you guys right after the game here on the Seahawks Squad Show. Once again, if you missed any part of today's episode, you can catch it on anywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube, of course, as well. Please like the video if you haven't already. It helps us out a ton. And once again, remember we during the regular season now, which I love that we're in. It's so great. I'm so excited. We have 1 episode during the week, and then of course our second episode for the Seahawks Squad Show works as a post-game show. I'll be live with Turbo, with Rob Rang, with Chris Crawford, breaking down everything directly after the final whistle of Seahawks versus 49ers on Sunday afternoon. So we'll talk to you guys then here on the Seahawks Squad Show. Peace. Go Hawks. Have a good one.